This is the instruction of the Prophet. May God's peace and blessings be upon him. And by that encouragement, naturally, relationships outside of marriage are discouraged. The diseases and harm which come from extramarital affairs, etc., are avoided in the Muslim society. We also see, in the case of marriage, that parental involvement is a requirement in the case of women and is encouraged in the case of men. It's something which may be somewhat displeasing to young people of this age. However, that parental involvement is what protects Muslim families. Those who are married to blessings of their parents. Because in Islam, marriage is not just a relationship between a man and a woman, but a relationship between two families. Two families are coming together. So because two families are coming together, then the parents have a role. They have a role to play. And the children respect the role of their parents. And as such, the union has the support of two families behind it. That kind of support is very difficult for it to be broken. But when it's just a man and a woman on their own, the pressure can easily pressure society, emotion, etc. can easily cause such marriages to break up, which is what we're finding in Western society today, where divorce has reached 50% and more in a number of these societies. And as such, you find families are being raised. Now you have a family structure, which they call a single-parent family, where one man is raising children, one woman is raising children, and this has become an accepted norm. We also find, with regard to the family guidelines, that Islam encourages and enforces modesty in dress. That Islam considers that dress primarily is for the covering of the private. Secondarily, it is for protection from the elements. And thirdly, it is for purification. This approach has been turned upside down in modern society. Today, the purpose of dress is not to cover the private, it's to expose it as much as possible. It's not to protect from the elements, because why would then a woman wear a miniskirt in the middle of winter? So, we see that the whole view in terms of dress is one which promotes sexual promiscuity in society. And as a result, you find rape is on the rise. Every year, thousands and hundreds of thousands of cases are reported. Women are suffering. Yet, the fashion still continues to promote the female body, the female and the sex object used to sell products. And women, because of the acceptance of the women's liberation movement, they look at the Muslim woman all covered up as being oppressed. They don't realize that that covering up is for their benefit. They look at it in the form of oppression. Their whole sensibilities, their own consciousness of what is causing this molestation on the job, harassment of women in whatever job they find themselves, whether they're lawyers, doctors, or whether they're maids or nurses. They find themselves in all walks of life being harassed. But they just can't seem to connect that this harassment is related to dress. Islam addresses this issue the very beginning. It promotes the separation of sexes for the protection again of the women in society. This is misinterpreted as again oppression. However, when we look at the societies that are implementing separation, that have recognized their responsibilities to education, etc., we don't find the women oppressed, but we find women able to express themselves in a way which they're not able to do in mixed society. Because whenever men and women get together in classes or conferences such as this, etc., and both are trying to express their views, you will find that the men will dominate. Because of certain nature which Allah has created them with, they tend to dominate and shout down the women. The women have to resort to very negative behavior in order to be heard. Whereas Islam encourages the women to be amongst themselves, where their voice can be heard very easily. They don't have to be, trying to compete with or coping with the male ego or male tendency. And also, the natural promiscuity which tends to be a product of free mixing Islamic or Muslim society, when it applies the principles of Islam, it's safe for us. We also find, with regard to the importance of family, that there is a prohibition, a very strong prohibition in Islam on adultery, fornication, and homosexuality. The punishments in Islam are very severe. Death for adultery and homosexuality, and 100 public lashes for those who are involved in fornication. Very harsh punishment. However, these punishments are really for their deterrent value. How many people have been executed in the history of Islam in recent times for adultery? Adultery, for the law to be applied, it requires 4 witnesses. Any person who would commit a sexual act in public so that 4 people can witness them, they deserve to be killed. However, when a person knows that this is a potential punishment, it causes them to think. Of course, there will always be people, no matter what, who are going to break the law. And naturally, Islam does not claim to create a society of angels. However, the principles that are there protect the society from the abuses of the natural instincts. We also find that within the principles of family, that there is care for the aged within the family. That there are no old people's homes in Muslim society. The old people are respected. Children look at it as their duty to look after their family. They don't look at the parents as the burden. They want to try to get off their backs as soon as they can. Stick them in an old person's home or, in a nursing home or whatever. This is not the approach. The Islamic approach is that the parents are looked after just as they looked after us when we were incapable of looking after ourselves. We find amongst the characteristics of Islam that there is a prohibition of all of the harmful practices and foods and drinks, like alcohol,